Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Third Eyesight. I hope that you are all doing so well, enjoying your summer, or depending on where you are in the world, what hemisphere you're in, your winter. I think about when I used to visit Peru in the summer. It was so hot here in the United States, but in Peru it was their winter. Their winter went down to maybe 50 something degrees Fahrenheit at the coldest, maybe 40 depending on where you were. Not so cold, in my opinion, based on living in New York City for 10 years. So, yeah, wherever you are, hope you're enjoying the season you're in. And today I want to talk about how your body is not the problem. If you feel ashamed, if you feel apologetic about your body, there is a spiritual disconnection happening there. Now, I want to disclaim before we get into this episode that I do not want to make any psychological claims. I don't want to make any medical claims when it comes to body image dysmorphia, which is something that I have struggled with. I have gone to a therapist to talk about that. When it's come to eating disorders, I've gone to a therapist to talk a little bit about my almost experience of eating disorders. So please know that if you are struggling with body image dysmorphia, you're struggling with eating disorders, or an eating disorder rather, please see a doctor, please see a professional, please see a psychologist or a therapist who can really help you. Spirituality is one solution for our problems. It is not the only solution to our problems. I truly believe that. I know not everyone's going to like hearing that, but human beings have the gift of talk. Human beings have the gift of medicine for a good reason, because it can actually help us. So please seek the help that you need regarding these topics. I'm going to share this from my own perspective, my own experience, about how my body image dysmorphia partly has been a spiritual issue for me. It has been a spiritual disconnection and not just a physical one. So I want to start also with saying that the mainstream culture ignores the soul. Most of mainstream culture is very secular and ignores the existence of our souls. They just want to sell products to you. They want to sell an idea to you. They want to convince you to do something, to see something, to watch something. And on social media, you are a product. Your content is on platforms being sold to advertisers. So not only are you being fed products on these platforms, you are a product. I know that sounds really cynical, but it's the truth. So when we're living in a culture that so much idolizes the physical, the material, there's so much focus put on just that sphere of life, just that part of living, and not as much put on personal growth, not as much put on the soul journey. And I'm not saying that society, mainstream culture, should be religious, should be spiritual, the total opposite. I don't believe it has to be spiritual, but I do believe it should recognize the humanity in people. And by recognizing the humanity in people, you're recognizing their soul. You don't have to call it a soul, you don't have to call it a spirit. You're just recognizing humanity, and that is the most spiritual thing you can do, I believe. So when we are living in a culture that ignores our humanity and just wants to feed us things, wants us to buy things, wants us to be sold into an idea, we get pulled into that, especially if there's peer pressure around it, especially if we're being made to feel also that if we don't buy into this idea, we don't buy that thing, or we don't do this with our bodies or with ourselves, then we are missing out on something, or we're not keeping up with other people. Unfortunately, our mainstream culture thrives on lack and scarcity. You don't have enough of this. You are not enough. And this fosters a disconnection from our bodies, a spiritual disconnection from our bodies. Parents play a part, our cultures. I'm going to tell you a little story. Recently, I was on a family trip to Texas, and one of my aunts, who was there, not the one I surprised, who's delightful, one of my aunts that was there, made a comment about my body. I was without a shirt. I was by the pool. And she said, "Oh, you have a belly." And in the past, I would have said something next like, "Oh, I'm trying to lose weight. Oh, I'm trying to get fit." But instead I thought about it and I thought, why is she giving me this kind of feedback? Why is she telling me something like this? Why is this spitting out of her mouth? And I know it has a lot to do with how she feels about herself. And I told her, yeah, I do have a belly. I do. She goes, yeah, you do. I said, so do you. That makes two of us. And then she said, oh no, but you look good. You look good. She backtracked. In that moment, I was taking my power. I was in my power. I was pretty much saying, who are you to tell me something like that? And who are you to make a comment about my body? And it's not a judgment on her body. That's not what it was about. It was about telling her, you have no place to make a comment about anybody's body, including my own. I have a belly. Yeah. You do too. So we're even. Why do you need to tell me that? Going back to mainstream culture and family and parents, upbringing, schools we go to. I know, especially for a lot of you, if you're Latino, if you're Asian, if you are, if you grown up in a household that really focused on image, you know what it's like to be criticized by your family members. So all of these things combined, mainstream society, capitalism, marketing, and our families, it's a lot being fed to us. Our families have been fed these things. We continue to be fed these things through media, through outside sources, and also by our own parents who's watched and do watch the same media sources, the same outlets, the same marketing materials. It's a whole network. It's a whole environment that is feeding off of our feelings of lack, which is very unfortunate, which is why it's important for us to break out of that mold and see this differently, which comes to my next point. We are most disconnected when it comes to our body image, when we separate our body from who we are. Now, I'm not saying that our worth is in our bodies, that we are only as worthy as our bodies look. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is our body is a part of a holistic me, a holistic you. When we separate our bodies from who we are, or we separate who we are from our bodies, we start to compartmentalize ourselves. And we start to pay more attention to one than the other, or pay attention to one less than the other. And when we look at ourselves as a complete human being with a soul, we start to see our worth differently. Our bodies are part of our worth. Your body is part of your self-worth. It doesn't dictate your self-worth. And I'll put a bow on this thought because it may sound a little confusing. I hope this clarifies it. I'm going to repeat. You are not, you're worthy, your worth, oh gosh, I can't even speak. Your worth is not based on how your body looks. Your worth is based on existing. You exist, therefore you are worthy. You exist, therefore your body is worthy, regardless of what it looks like. You exist, therefore your thoughts are worthy. Your opinions, your ideas, your talents, your abilities, everything about you is automatically worthy of being valued. You don't have to do anything or try anything to be of more value as a human being. And anyone who makes you feel differently has no power to place a value on you, because by existing, you are already of high value. And that value doesn't just include your brain, it includes your body. So no matter what size you are worthy, period. When we start to recognize that, we start to take these thread phrases that are separate and start to combine them to make them into this solid rope. We start to integrate. We start to see ourselves connected to our bodies and our souls connected to who we are, and who we are connected to our bodies. Our souls connected to our bodies. The bodies are a vessel for our soul. And I think in some mainstream media that is tied to spirituality, I've mentioned this in a past podcast about the hot guru dilemma, the hot guru issue. Sometimes spirituality is described as this state of being awake, enlightened, and part of being enlightened is eating really healthy and having a matcha latte or what am I don't know what I'm talking about. Something matcha, something green. I like matcha, by the way. That the more spiritual you are, the healthier you're treating your body. Now, I do agree with that the more spiritual you become, the more you're going to pay attention to how you treat your body and how you treat your health. I believe that to me, it's just that's just natural. At least for me, I'll speak for myself. The more spiritual I became, the more I paid attention to how I treated my body or how I looked at my body. But that looks different person to person. To one person, it could be going to the gym. To the other person, it could be meditating. To one other person, it could be eating more greens. It could be cutting a certain type of food out. It's going to look different person to person. There's no one size fits all. Our human bodies need a certain type of fuel to run, yes. But even then, there's some fuel that works for other people that other people are allergic to, right? I mean, gluten is a really good example. So if you're not a professional, if you're not a doctor, you have no right to tell somebody that if you eat this way, if you exercise this way, you are more spiritual. No one has a right to say that to somebody else. Everyone gets to determine what healthy means to them based on what their doctors say. Because, for example, I just recently got some lab work done that shows I have a gene tied to heart disease, which I'm not surprised by because heart disease runs in my family. And that means that my version of healthy may look slightly different from the next person who does not have that gene, because I have to look out for myself in certain ways. So when we look at our bodies, I don't want us to look beyond our soul. We have to look at ourselves as a holistic being. And it's what really drove me to focus more on my body image, the messages I was telling myself, the way I was talking to myself about my body a few years ago. I decided to change that because I started feeling more worthy as a human being, as a soul in this human body. And that kind of worked from the inside out. I focused on my soul and how my soul being in this body, makes this person, Juan, worthy. And then I started to change my mind, change my thoughts about my body. And that's what I hope for you. So if you feel disconnected from your body, consider perhaps that it may be a spiritual disconnection, that you're seeing yourself in compartments as opposed to one whole being. Give me your thoughts on that. And if you feel like you've struggled with your body image and you want to share more about it, you could always reach out and share with the show at juanfrancisco.co/contact. You can ask a question or share your thoughts on what I said in this episode. And if you feel like you have a friend who can really use this episode on body image, please send them this episode. And the last thing I'll say is, this is uncomfortable to share with you, but this podcast has 5 reviews on Apple Podcasts. And last week I got over 250 downloads of this podcast, which is insane. And I would really love for you to leave a review for this podcast. I'm in this period of growing my business, and I'm just gonna say it. I can't believe I have probably over I don't know how many listeners I have, but 250 downloads, 250 plus. That's a lot. And if you haven't given a review, I would really love for you to give a review. It really helps the show. And I'm really excited to start working again with coaching clients. And I'm excited to host my Mediumship 101 development course on August 23rd. Yes, 23rd. Wow, I almost forgot my own event date. I really want to help spread the news of all the great things we're doing here together. And I would love your help just by leaving a review. You can give it however many stars you want. Just leave a review. I hope you like it. Hope you like the podcast. But it would be really appreciated if you gave some feedback on it. Okay, plug over, promotion over. That is icky. I'm going to try and do that a little more and be proud of it, but it is something I'm not comfortable doing, is telling you, please support the podcast. But I would really appreciate it. All right, I'll see you on the next episode. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your day. This podcast is really about helping you trust your own intuition and step into your power. If you'd like to work with me directly, you can learn more at juanfrancisco.co. That's juanfrancisco.co. And please remember to subscribe to the podcast and share it with a friend.